Commander Zexel's mandibles clicked nervously as his scout ship's sensors locked onto the unidentified vessel drifting through the nebulous crimson clouds. The strange craft lacked weapon systems, shield generators, or even basic defensive countermeasures, a suicide mission by any reasonable galactic standard. Yet there it floated, seemingly unconcerned with its vulnerability. "Magnify," he ordered, his compound eyes widening at the bipedal figures visible through the vessel's transparent viewport. Humans, the rumors whispered in the darkest corners of space stations, suddenly felt all too real. "Commander, should we establish contact?" Second Officer Triz asked, her antennae twitching with curiosity. Federation protocols suggest observation only for unclassified species. Zexel hesitated, his four upper limbs tensing against his exoskeleton. Curiosity overrode caution. "Open a channel. Diplomatic frequencies." The view screen shimmered before revealing a face that made Zexel instinctively step back. The creature had only two eyes, set in a flat face with a protruding nasal structure. Its skin lacked proper protective coloration. How had such vulnerable beings achieved interstellar travel? "This is Captain Elena Chen of the Earth Science Vessel Curiosity," the human said, face forming what Zexel recognized from xenobiological texts as a smile. "We're conducting nebula composition studies. Are we trespassing in claimed territory?" Before Zexel could respond, his communication device chimed with an urgent, encrypted message. The text scrolled across his personal screen. "Priority ALP. Federation High Command. Disengage immediately. Do not, under any circumstances, harm the humans." Zexel's respiratory chambers constricted. Such warnings were unprecedented. "No trespassing, Captain Chen," he managed, forcing his voice into diplomatic registers. "I am Commander Zexel of the Vesperi Expeditionary Force. We serve the Galactic Federation." The human's expression brightened further. "A federation of species. Extraordinary. This is our first contact with non-Earth intelligence. Would you permit a cultural exchange?" The audacity stunned Zexel. These creatures, traveling without protection, now proposed casual diplomacy with a completely unknown civilization. Either they possessed hidden strengths or exhibited evolutionary suicidal tendencies. "I must consult with my superiors," Zexel replied carefully. "Please maintain position." He cut the transmission and immediately opened a secure channel to Central Command. The holographic form of Admiral Vrex materialized, her usually stoic features tight with concern. "You've initiated contact with humans," she demanded without preamble. They appeared defenseless. "Admiral, I thought." "That is precisely the problem, Commander. You thought, rather than followed protocol." Her voice lowered. "The Senate is convening an emergency session. Maintain distance, but do not lose them. Under no circumstances are you to take hostile action." "Admiral, they seem peaceful, scientifically curious." "There are things you don't understand, Commander. Knowledge reserved for those with Omega clearance." The Admiral's compound eyes darkened. The last species to attack humans vanished within a lunar cycle. Not defeated, vanished. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Zexel staring at empty space. When he returned to the bridge, the human ship had moved closer. A gesture of trust that now felt ominous. "They're hailing us again, Commander," Triz reported. On screen, Captain Chen waved, a disarmingly friendly gesture that sent chills down Zexel's carapace. How could the Federation fear creatures that looked so fragile? "We've prepared a data package about Earth culture," Chen announced cheerfully. "Would you like to exchange information?" Zexel's mandibles twitched nervously. What hidden power did these humans possess that warranted such caution from the highest levels of Federation command? "Yes," he replied, his scientific curiosity winning over instinctive dread. "We would be honored." And with those words, Zexel unknowingly initiated the most significant first contact in Federation history. 3 standard cycles later, Zexel stood in the shadows of the grand reception hall aboard the Federation diplomatic station Harmony. His new assignment, cultural observer to the humans, felt more like a punishment than a promotion. "They're fascinating, aren't they?" whispered Talia, the telepathic Lumini assigned as his research partner. Her translucent skin glowed faintly in the dim lighting, so unaware of their effect on others. Across the room, 5 human diplomats mingled with representatives from 17 Federation species. Zexel's recording implant captured everything. Ambassador Chen casually sipping a Jovian firewater that would dissolve Arcturian tissue on contact. Science Officer Rodriguez handling mineral samples that emitted radiation levels requiring protective gear for every other species present. "Watch the Draclid ambassador," Talia murmured. "Even he maintains distance, and his species conquered 3 systems before joining the Federation." Zexel's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Because they know something we don't. Something about humans that inspires caution." The evening took an unexpected turn when Ambassador Chen accidentally cut her finger on a ceremonial knife during the traditional greeting exchange with the Medusan delegation. Several diplomats gasped, expecting the customary medical response team. Chen merely wrapped her napkin around the wound, apologized for the interruption, and continued discussions. When Zexel glimpsed the finger again during dessert, the cut had already begun sealing itself. "Impressive healing rate," he noted in his recording log, consistent with physiological reports. But it was the incident in the botanical gardens that truly captured Zexel's attention. Ambassador Chen paused mid-conversation, with the Regelian trade minister, bent down, and carefully relocated a crawling insect from the path to a nearby plant. "Did you see that?" Zexel asked Talia. "These creatures endure what would kill us, yet show mercy to beings they could crush without thought." Talia's glow dimmed slightly. A contradiction. Resilience without the expected predatory instinct. Their observation was interrupted by alarm sirens. Security forces rushed toward the human quarters, weapons drawn but held carefully downward. Zexel and Talia arrived to find Federation guards surrounding 3 Drevex operatives, all lying motionless on the floor. Their specialized weapons, designed to bypass security, remained unfired. "What happened?" Zexel demanded of the security chief. "Assassination attempt," the Centaurian replied, mandibles tight with stress. "They infiltrated during shift change, targeting the human delegation." "The humans, aren't they? Unharmed. Completely unarmed." Medical teams arrived, scanners hovering over the fallen Dravex. Chief Medical Officer Wren looked up, face scales pale with shock. "They're dead," she announced. "No external wounds, no toxins we can detect. It appears their nervous systems simply shut down simultaneously." Most disturbing was the human's reaction when informed of the incident. No triumph, no righteous anger, only genuine sadness for the loss of life. "We extend our condolences to their families," Ambassador Chen said formally. "Violence solves nothing." That night, Zexel replayed the security footage repeatedly. The lead assassin's expression changed from determination to pure terror the moment he raised his weapon toward the humans. Nothing had touched him. No human had even noticed his presence. Yet something had killed him instantly. "Computer, access Federation archives," Zexel commanded. "Search historical incidents, harm to humans, subsequent unexplained deaths." "That search requires Omega clearance," the AI responded. Zexel stared at the frozen image of the assassin's terrified face. "Then I need to get Omega clearance." In his dreams that night, Zexel saw humans walking unharmed through battlefields, while around them, attackers fell to invisible forces. He awoke with absolute certainty. The Federation didn't protect humans from others. Something protected humans from everyone. "This section requires Omega clearance," the repository AI announced as Zexel placed his identification against the scanner. Getting the clearance had required calling in favors from 3 senior admirals and promising his firstborn hatchlings to a temporal affairs bureaucrat. The ancient door, actual physical metal, not energy barriers, groaned open to reveal data crystals so old their casings had begun to deteriorate. The repository itself lay deep beneath the Federation capital planet's surface, protected by security measures that would repel a small fleet. Records predating official Federation founding. The AI intoned. Proceed with caution. Biological containment active. Zexel's hands trembled as he inserted the first crystal into the reader. These were the oldest records in known space, the history of the galaxy before the Federation united its species. Holographic images flickered to life. Massive Eterni warships surrounding a primitive Earth vessel. The Eterni, the oldest known spacefaring race, now reduced to a handful of elders who rarely left their homeworld. Their sleek, crystalline ships dwarfed the crude human craft. Translator active, the AI said. Temporal adjustment complete. The Eterni commander's voice echoed through the chamber. Surrender your vessel or be destroyed. Your resources belong to the Eterni Dominion. The human response was defiant. We claim no territory beyond our needs. We wish only peaceful exploration. The recording jumped forward. Eterni weapons fired upon the human ship. Several direct hits. Debris scattered. Zexel expected the record to end there. The annihilation of early humanity explaining why they were now treated with such caution. Instead, the next images showed Eterni medical facilities overflowing with their finest warriors. Medical readouts indicated catastrophic cellular degeneration, organs failing in identical patterns across thousands of patients. Day 7 post-engagement, a medical officer reported. 20% of attack force now deceased. No treatment effective. Contagion spreads to those who had contact with the original strike team. The recording jumped again. The Eterni Supreme Leader addressed his High Council. We have lost 30% of our population in 14 days. The humans did nothing. The mere act of harming them brings death upon us. We must establish contact, seek terms. Zexel watched, mandibles slack with shock, as the recording showed the signing of what would become the most sacred document in galactic law. The Pact of Ages. Let it be known across the stars and for all time. The Eterni leader's voice resonated with solemn finality. Humans are untouchable. We never harm them. Any civilization encountered by our descendants shall receive this warning as their first law. Zexel staggered from the archive chamber, a terrible understanding dawning. The most fundamental principle of interstellar diplomacy wasn't based on respect or cooperation. It was born of primal fear. When his ship emerged from hyperspace near the human colony on Europa, Zexel watched the bustling activity with new eyes. The humans who enthusiastically established outposts, eagerly joined interspecies conferences, and engaged in trade negotiations had no idea they were protected by the galaxy's oldest and most inviolable law. They believed the careful way other species treated them was normal diplomatic protocol. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Ambassador Chen, his communications officer reported. She's inviting you to tour their new hydroponics facility. Zexel thought of the dead Dravex assassins, of the Eterni plague, of 1,000 diplomatic protocols designed around a single principle: never harm humans. Accept the invitation, he replied, and inform the research team to meet me afterward. We need to understand what makes humans different. What protects them? He paused, watching a human child wave at their ship from a viewport. Before they discover it themselves. Cross-reference complete, announced Talia, her luminescent skin pulsing with concentration as she projected the results into the secure chamber where Zexel's unauthorized research team had gathered. Their makeshift laboratory aboard his diplomatic vessel hummed with illegal quantum processors analyzing centuries of data. The holographic display showed thousands of incidents spanning 2 millennia. Every documented case where a non-human entity attempted to harm a human. Red lines connected aggressors to medical reports, autopsy findings, and extinction events. It's impossible, muttered Krell, the team's skeptical quantarian physicist. His crystalline structure refracted light as he leaned closer to the display. Every single one. No exceptions. None we could find, Zexel confirmed. The pattern is undeniable. Without exception, The aggressor suffered catastrophic health failure within 7 standard days. The more deliberate the harm, the faster and more severe the response. "It's not superstition," Krell whispered, his typical skepticism crumbling before the evidence. "It's statistically impossible for this to be coincidence." Dr. Narration, their volocrid microbiologist, manipulated the display to show cellular breakdown patterns. The symptoms are consistent across species with completely different physiologies. Whatever affects the aggressors bypasses natural immunities, adapts to any biology. Their revelations were interrupted by an emergency broadcast that blared through the ship's communication system. Moloch's raiders, notorious for their brutality, had attacked a human outpost in the Cygnus Arm. The Federation Council was convening an emergency session. "This is it," Zexal said, "a controlled observation opportunity." Within hours, he had requisitioned a faster-than-light observer ship with his diplomatic authority. The team arrived at the human colony 3 days after the Moloch's attack, their vessel cloaked to allow unobtrusive study. The human settlement presented a scene of remarkable recovery. Despite damaged structures and visible injuries, the colonists worked with practiced efficiency. Medical teams treated the wounded. Construction crews cleared debris. Children played in designated safe zones under watchful supervision. 27 human casualties, Talia reported, scanning official channels. The Molochs killed them during the initial assault. "And the Molochs?" Zexal asked. Krell adjusted their sensors toward the Molochs fleet now orbiting their homeworld 2 systems away. Their medical ships have been called from across their territory. Unprecedented emergency protocols activated. Magnification showed Moloch's warriors being transported to medical facilities in alarming numbers. Their biology, typically resilient enough to survive vacuum exposure for brief periods, was failing rapidly, with symptoms matching historical records of those who harmed humans. "They're all dying," Dr. Narration confirmed, analyzing the intercepted medical data. Their physicians are bewildered. No pathogen detected, no treatment effective. Zexal watched through their surveillance feed as a small human child approached the colony's containment area. A captured Moloch's raider lay behind the energy barrier, his once fearsome tusked face now gray with approaching death. The child placed a cup of water near the barrier opening. "Are you thirsty?" she asked simply. The Moloch stared at her with incomprehension and fear. "It knows," Zexal said softly. "It knows what's happening to its people." "But the humans don't know," Talia responded, her telepathic abilities confirming the child's innocent intent. "They have no idea they're the cause." As Zexal watched the little girl offer water to someone who would be dead before she finished her next sleep cycle, he felt a profound unease. How long could such a dangerous secret remain hidden from humans themselves? "We need biological samples," he decided. "If something within humans causes this effect, we must identify it, before the humans do." "And if they discover it first?" Krell asked. Zexal's mandibles clicked anxiously. "Then the balance of power in the galaxy changes forever." The isolation laboratory glowed with sterile blue light as Zexal peered through the quantum microscope. 3 months of careful collection, blood samples from medical waste, skin cells from diplomatic handshakes, hair strands from guest quarters, had yielded enough human biological material for thorough analysis. "Impossible," he whispered, but the evidence floated before him. Microscopic entities permeating every human tissue sample, entities that matched no known galactic life form. They appeared dormant, almost crystalline, yet with complex internal structures suggesting incredible sophistication. Dr. Narration, the volocrid microbiologist, manipulated the controls to isolate a single organism. Her appendages trembled slightly as she worked. "Watch," she instructed, introducing a simulation of threatening biochemical signals, the same markers aggressive species produced when attacking. The dormant organism instantly transformed, developing structures capable of producing compounds lethal to virtually any known species. "Remarkable," Krell muttered, his crystalline form reflecting the laboratory lights. "They respond to threat signatures." Try peaceful intent markers, Zexel suggested. When Dr. Narration introduced biochemical signals associated with helping or healing, the organism remained dormant, its crystalline structure unchanged. They're not just symbiotes, Zexel realized aloud. They're guardians that can sense intention. Further tests revealed more astonishing properties. The organisms could transmit through air or physical contact, but only activated in presence of hostile intent toward their human hosts. Once transferred, they replicated rapidly within the new host, producing compounds precisely calibrated to that species' biological vulnerabilities. Self-limiting extinction response, Dr. Narration concluded. They eliminate only the immediate threat, then become dormant again once hostility ceases. Evolution or engineering? Krell asked the question they'd all considered. Too perfect for random evolution. Talia responded, her telepathic abilities offering unique insight into the organism's response patterns, yet too integrated with human biology to be artificial. Co-evolution, then, Zexel suggested. Humans evolved alongside these protectors on their homeworld, completely unaware of the invisible shield they carry into the stars. Their findings necessitated reporting to the Federation Council. Security protocols for human-related information meant Zexel delivered his report personally, standing before representatives of 300 species in the ancient chamber. The council chamber fell silent as he presented the evidence, the representatives watching with growing horror as he explained how these microscopic defenders could transmit through air or touch to any being harboring ill intent toward their human hosts. The protection is not mystical or supernatural, he concluded. It's biological, quantifiable, and potentially. He hesitated. Reproducible. The chamber erupted in alarmed murmurs. The ancient Medusan counselor rose slowly, her serpentine body towering above the assembly. Then we must ensure humans never discover this power, she declared, voice resonating with authority earned through centuries of service. The moment humans realize the galaxy fears harming them, they will have no reason to fear us. With respect, Counselor, Zexel countered. Our research suggests humans genuinely desire peaceful coexistence. They value cooperation, not dominance. Today, perhaps, another counselor interjected. But species evolve, Commander. Policies change. If humans discover their advantage, I propose ongoing observation, Zexel said quickly. My team has developed detection methods for the guardian organisms. We can monitor their activity, ensure they remain undiscovered by humans themselves. The council deliberated briefly before approving his proposal. As the session ended, the Medusan counselor approached Zexel privately. You've done well to discover this, she admitted. But remember, some knowledge threatens galactic stability. Keep humans ignorant of their power, Commander. For everyone's safety. As Zexel departed the council chambers, he wondered if such secrets could truly remain hidden forever, especially from a species as naturally curious as humans. Alarms howled through the mining colony's emergency channels as Zexel's shuttle broke atmosphere. The Joint Federation human deep-crust mining operation on Proxima Centauri's fourth planet had reported catastrophic structural failures 30 minutes earlier. The orbital view revealed the devastation. A critical support system collapse had buried 20 levels of the operation, trapping thousands, including the entire human engineering corps who had been inspecting a new excavation site. Federation rescue teams are refusing to enter, his pilot reported incredulously. Station Commander Vrel claims extraction equipment might cause further collapses, endangering human survivors. Zexel's mandibles clicked in agitation. He recognized the real reason immediately. Fear of accidentally harming humans during rescue attempts. The ancient pact had paralyzed rational response. Prepare for immediate landing, he ordered. I will lead the rescue myself. Commander, Talia cautioned, her luminescent skin pulsing with concern, if you inadvertently harm humans during extraction. My research indicates intention matters, Zexel interrupted. We'll find out if I'm right. On the surface, chaos reigned. Rescue operations for non-human workers proceeded efficiently in areas away from human quarters, but the central collapse, where sensors indicated most humans were trapped, remained untouched. "We've detected 17 human life signs 3 levels down," reported the Illyrian operations chief, her tentacles waving in distress. "But accessing them requires shifting unstable debris that could cause further harm." "Show me," Zexal demanded. The holographic display revealed the problem. A support beam had partially collapsed, creating a pocket where several humans survived, but also trapping a group of Illyrian workers in a rapidly decompressing chamber nearby. Shifting the beam would save the Illyrians, but risked further injury to a human engineer already pinned beneath it. Decades of conditioning screamed against what Zexal knew he must do. Every instinct warned, never harm humans. "Bring cutting equipment," he ordered. "We're going in." Hours later, deep in the collapsed tunnels, Zexal faced his moment of truth. The human engineer stared up at him with pain-clouded eyes as Zexal explained what needed to happen. "The Illyrians will die if we don't move this beam," he told her. "But shifting it will cause you additional pain and possibly further injuries." "Do it," she gasped. "Save them." The human screamed in agony as Zexal and his team shifted the beam, undeniably causing additional harm to her crushed legs. But the action saved 16 Illyrians from certain death. As emergency medical teams transported survivors to the surface, Zexal helped carry the injured human engineer to treatment facilities. His compound eyes never left her face, watching for signs of anger or accusation. Instead, she reached out weakly, touching his exoskeletal arm. "Thank you for making the right choice," she whispered before losing consciousness. For the next 7 days, Zexal waited for the first symptoms of retribution described in the ancient texts. According to every historical record, his deliberate action causing harm to a human, regardless of noble intentions, should trigger the invisible guardian's response. Nothing happened. No illness. No mysterious symptoms. Nothing. Meanwhile, across 16 star systems, members of the secretive purist movement gathered in hidden bases. Their leader, Supreme Director Vos, addressed his followers through secured quantum channels. "The time for observation is over," Vos declared, his scaled face illuminated by holographic displays showing human settlement patterns. "Our scientists have confirmed the human's protective mechanism is biological in nature. After years of research, we have developed a countermeasure." He raised a vial of iridescent liquid. "This synthetic compound neutralizes the human symbiotes. With it, we can finally eliminate this threat before they discover their power over us." His followers raised their arms in salute. "Purity through security," they chanted in unison. "Begin the operation," Vos commanded. "Target all human settlements simultaneously. The protection responds to intention, not action." Zexal's voice echoed through the emergency council session as reports streamed in of purist attacks on human settlements across 7 systems. The chamber erupted in confusion. According to everything they knew, the purists should already be suffering the consequences of breaking the ancient pact. "The mining incident proves it," Zexal continued urgently. "I caused direct harm to a human while trying to save others. The symbiotes didn't activate because my intention wasn't malicious." He projected his findings onto the chamber's holographic display. "Look at the historical records again. In every case where accidental harm occurred, or where harm was caused while attempting to help humans, no retribution followed." The Federation president, a stately Andorian, leaned forward. "Then how do you explain the purists' initial success? Their attacks have claimed human lives, yet the first wave of attackers remains unaffected." "Their countermeasure," Zexal explained. "Our intelligence indicates they've developed a compound targeting the symbiotic organisms. It temporarily suppresses the Guardian's ability to detect threats and respond." His explanation was interrupted as new reports arrived. A communications officer burst into the chamber, scales flashing in alarm. "Purist forces that executed the first wave of attacks are now experiencing mass medical emergencies," she announced. Supreme Director Vos himself collapsed during a victory broadcast, bleeding from his eyes and rambling about invisible insects under his skin. Holographic feeds showed Purist medical facilities overwhelmed with soldiers suffering identical symptoms to those documented in the ancient archives, precisely what should have happened immediately upon attacking humans. "I don't understand," admitted the Federation president. "Their countermeasure worked initially. What changed?" Zexal studied the pattern of illness spreading through the Purist ranks. The symptoms appeared first in command structures. Leaders falling ill before their subordinates, architects of the plan suffering before those merely following orders. The symbiotes are adaptive, he realized aloud. They recognized the suppression compound and developed countermeasures of their own. More importantly, they didn't just detect physical attack, they recognized an existential threat to humanity's future. He manipulated the display to show the progression. They responded accordingly, prioritizing those most responsible. The more central someone was to planning the attack, the faster they're affected. A biological defense system with tactical intelligence, the Medusan counselor observed, her serpentine form coiling tighter. Even more dangerous than we feared. Talia, who had accompanied Zexal to the session, stepped forward. "There's something else," she said, her telepathic abilities having sensed patterns others missed. The symbiotes seemed to recognize degrees of moral culpability. Those who attacked knowing they were killing innocents suffer worse effects than those who believed they were defending against a legitimate threat. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembly. "These aren't merely biological automatons," Zexal concluded. "They're somehow capable of ethical evaluation. They judge not just actions, but intentions and moral weight. We're facing a biological defense system with moral reasoning," the president said slowly. "Something that evolved alongside humans, protecting them not just from physical threats, but from those who would deliberately harm them with full understanding of their actions." Krell, who had been analyzing the newest data, added, "The symbiote's adaptation suggests they communicate with each other across vast distances, perhaps through quantum entanglement. They share information about threats, updating their collective defenses." "What happens now?" asked the junior counselor. "The Purists are dying, but they've already killed hundreds of humans. We maintain the ancient protocol," the president decided. "We never reveal to humans the true nature of their protection." Zexal exchanged glances with Talia. They both knew what the council didn't yet understand. This event had changed everything. The symbiotes had adapted once. They would continue to evolve. And eventually, humans would notice the pattern. The age of ignorance was ending. The Grand Hall of Earth's United Nations fell silent as Zexal concluded his presentation. For the first time in galactic history, humans learned the truth about their invisible guardians and the fear-based peace that had shaped interstellar relations. 6 weeks had passed since the Purist attacks. Federation authorities had contained the incidents, but couldn't contain the questions that followed. When every Purist attacker died from identical, inexplicable symptoms, humans began connecting patterns across historical incidents. Dr. Elena Chen, the same captain Zexal had first encountered years earlier, had assembled the evidence. When she requested a Federation explanation, the Council faced an unprecedented choice: continue the deception or reveal the truth. Zexal had volunteered to be the messenger. The silence stretched until Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's foremost xenobiologist, approached the podium. Her face displayed the mixture of wonder and sadness Zexal had seen on every human briefed on the revelation. "You've been afraid of us all this time," she said, her voice carrying through the hall without technological amplification. "While we've been afraid of you." Murmurs rippled through the human assembly as she continued. "These symbiotes evolved with us through Earth's violent history, protecting us from each other as much as from external threats. But they've never been weapons. They're protectors that respond to malice, not to justified defense or accidental harm." She turned to face the gathered representatives of humanity. "We stand at a crossroads. We could use this revelation to dominate through fear." Zexal tensed. This was the moment the Federation had dreaded for centuries, humans realizing their advantage. Or, Dr. Patel continued, looking directly at Zexal, we could research how these symbiotes distinguish harmful intent from necessary action, and perhaps learn how to extend similar protection to all sentient beings. The chamber erupted in discussion. Zexal observed with fascination how quickly humans adapted to the revelation, moving past shock into problem-solving mode. Commander Zexal called the Secretary General, restoring order. You've studied these organisms more than anyone. Are they communicable? Could they be shared? Unknown, Zexal admitted. They bond to human cellular structure in ways we don't fully understand. But they clearly can temporarily transfer to other species when detecting threat. Then the ethical question becomes whether we should attempt to modify them for broader protection, Dr. Patel suggested. If they can judge intent and respond proportionally, they represent an entirely new paradigm of peacekeeping. 3 months later, Zexal watched from the observation deck of the new Joint Species Research Center as the first voluntary symbiote transfer took place. After extensive ethical debates, humans had offered their unique protection to those most vulnerable, beginning with a Vesperi child born without immune protections. The procedure was surprisingly simple. Extended contact with a human volunteer who actively wished to protect the child was sufficient. Microscopic guardians recognized the positive intent and transferred in small numbers, adapting to Vesperi biology within hours. They're changing, Dr. Narration reported, monitoring the organism's adaptation, reconfiguring to protect without causing harm to others, focusing on defending their new host rather than attacking threats. A defense shield rather than a weapon, Zexal observed. Over subsequent months, the program expanded cautiously. The symbiotes proved remarkably adaptable, transferring only to those genuinely in need of protection, and only when both human donor and recipient species fully consented. Most remarkably, the Guardians never lost their ability to differentiate intention. They remained dormant during medical procedures, accidents, or necessary actions that caused temporary harm for greater benefit. As Zexal prepared to retire from his position as Federation liaison to Earth, he recorded one final entry in the research logs that had begun with fear and ended with understanding. The ancient pact read, "Humans are untouchable. We never harm them. Today we begin writing a new one. All sentient life is precious. We protect each other." The symbiotes didn't evolve to create fear or domination, but to preserve life against malice. In sharing this gift, humans have transformed the foundation of galactic relations from fear to mutual protection. The Guardians judge intention, not species, a lesson we would do well to remember in all our interactions. As he finished recording, the human child entered his office, the daughter of Dr. Patel, now 5 years old and fascinated by alien biology. "Commander Zexal," she asked, eyes bright with curiosity, "is it true that before I was born, species were afraid to hurt each other because of invisible guardians?" Zexal considered his answer carefully. "Partially true," he replied. "But now we choose not to hurt each other because we understand something better. That protection is stronger than fear, and cooperation more powerful than dominance." The child nodded seriously. "That makes more sense anyway." Indeed it did, Zexal thought. Indeed it did.